Your body can survive for weeks without eating. Without water, though, the clock starts running almost immediately. And what happens inside day by day is far more brutal than you'd imagine. Think about this. More than half of your body, literally, is water. That's not a poetic exaggeration. Your blood, your muscles, your brain, all of it depends on a fluid balance that stays steady only because you keep drinking water, without even thinking about it. The moment that supply gets cut off, your body switches into emergency mode. And that emergency mode has very clear, almost predictable stages which we're going to walk through together. Hour by hour, day by day. During the first few hours without drinking anything, you barely notice a difference. Your body has reserves, small cushions of fluid spread across tissues and blood. But as soon as that level starts dropping, your brain triggers a very specific alarm. Thirst. And here's something curious. Thirst doesn't show up the moment you start losing water. It shows up once you've already lost a significant amount. By the time you actually feel real thirst, your body is already running a deficit. It's an alarm that goes off late on purpose, because evolutionarily there was no need for it to go off any earlier. In most scenarios our ancestors faced, water was relatively available, so the body never developed an overly sensitive early warning system. Once a full day passes without water, your mouth dries out, saliva almost disappears, and something a lot of people don't expect starts kicking in. Headaches. That's not a coincidence. Your brain, like every other organ, needs a steady volume of fluid to function properly. When that volume drops, the brain literally shrinks a little, pulling slightly away from the inner walls of the skull, and that creates a different kind of pressure your body interprets as pain. By the second day, your body starts making drastic decisions. Your kidneys, which normally filter liters of blood to remove waste dissolved in water, start concentrating urine as much as possible, trying to hold on to every last drop. That's why at this point urine turns much darker, almost like strong tea. It's your body quietly screaming that it's rationing. Here's a detail that surprises a lot of people. Your heart starts beating faster not because it's getting stronger, but because it has to compensate. Blood becomes thicker as you lose fluid, so the heart needs more effort and more beats to move the same amount of blood through your body. It's like trying to pump syrup instead of water through the same hose. By the time day 3 arrives, most documented studies and cases agree on something fairly consistent. The average human body starts failing seriously. Mental confusion shows up, along with intense dizziness and a weakness that makes it nearly impossible to move normally. Body temperature starts spiraling out of control because sweat, your natural cooling system, depends directly on the water you still have available. Without efficient sweating, the body overheats easily, even in environments that wouldn't normally be dangerous. That's where that popular rule you've probably heard before comes from, the 3 days without water rule. But here's the interesting part. That number isn't a fixed law of physics, like the speed of light. It's an average calculated under specific conditions, generally in mild climates with a person at relative rest. It changes dramatically depending on very concrete factors. The temperature of the environment, the humidity, whether the person is exerting themselves physically or staying completely still, their age, their body size, and even their prior health condition. In very hot, dry environments, that limit can shrink dramatically, sometimes to less than a day, because the body loses water through sweat at a rate far faster than it can compensate for. On the other hand, there are documented, uncommon but real cases of people who ended up trapped under collapsed structures in cold climates with very little ability to move, and who were rescued after considerably more time than any average would suggest. Cold reduces sweating, reduces the body's overall exertion, slows down metabolism in general, and that considerably extends the window before the system collapses entirely. It's not that these people held out better through willpower or training, it's that the external conditions completely changed the equation. Now, not everybody goes through this process at the same pace, and that's worth understanding well. Young children, for example, dehydrate much faster than adults. Their bodies have a much larger skin surface area relative to their weight, which means they lose fluid through evaporation at a proportionally higher rate. On top of that, their internal mechanisms for concentrating urine and conserving water aren't fully developed yet. That's why, in situations of extreme heat or illness involving vomiting and diarrhea, a child can slide into severe dehydration in a fraction of the time it would take an adult. At the other end of the spectrum is the elderly population, who face a different but equally serious problem. With age, the thirst mechanism becomes less sensitive. The body literally takes longer to realize it needs water, and often the signal is so weak it goes unnoticed entirely. That explains why dehydration is surprisingly common among older adults, even in mild climates, even when water is perfectly available right there in the house. The body simply stops sending the warning with the same urgency it used to. There's another factor almost nobody considers: physical exertion. A person who stays completely still, at rest, can stretch their water reserves much further than most people would guess. But the moment physical activity comes into play, especially in hot climates, water loss through sweat multiplies fast. That's the same reason athletes and workers exposed to extreme heat need to keep replenishing fluids constantly, well before they ever feel thirsty, because by the time thirst kicks in, they've already lost a percentage of body water that directly affects both physical and mental performance. What makes lack of water so different from lack of food comes down to something structural, almost by design. Your body can convert stored fat, and even muscle if absolutely necessary, into usable energy for weeks, even months in extreme cases. But there's no equivalent reserve for water. You can't manufacture water internally out of something else you have stored away. Every vital function, from regulating temperature to clearing toxins through your kidneys, depends on a constant flow of fluid that can only be replenished one way: by drinking, or to a lesser extent, through the water contained in food. And there's something almost philosophical in all of this. Thirst, that simple, annoying sensation, is actually one of the oldest, most urgent biological signals your body has for communicating with you. While you can ignore hunger for hours, even for a full day, without much immediate consequence beyond discomfort, ignoring thirst for a long stretch simply isn't a real option for your biology. It's your body reminding you, in the most direct way it knows, that some things aren't negotiable, no matter how busy you are or how much you'd like to put it off. Next time you feel thirsty in the middle of the day and brush it off because you're focused on something else, it's worth remembering all of this quiet process already running underneath without asking your permission. Your body doesn't wait for you to decide it matters. It's already reacting, already rationing, already warning you, long before you actually notice, long before that glass of water starts to feel urgent. Sometimes the most basic thing, something as simple as a glass of water, is also the most urgent thing your body is asking you for, in the oldest language it knows. See you in the next video.